G'day. Today we're going to have a chat about stretching and mobility, or just general ability to move through range. We're going to stay away from the effect that joints themselves have on this stuff, because that's related to a whole bunch of different factors. And we're more going to just look at, I guess, stretching muscles, okay?
Yes.
And that I guess that feeling of tightness. I'm tight, therefore I can't do this movement or do it well.
Yes, for sure. And I mean, feelings of tightness is something that we get asked about all the time, and particularly with the hamstrings as well, which there's a lot of research into. People that feel tight hamstrings often can be at more risk of injury through their hamstrings as well. And, you know, I guess one of the first points we wanted to talk about is tightness doesn't necessarily mean that something's short.
No,
which can
definitely
be
not.
hard to play on the brain.
Yeah, and I think it's that feeling of tightness doesn't necessarily mean that something's short. You know, and even if if it's your hamstring and you lie flat on your back and try and lift your leg up, and you can't lift it as high because you get that feeling of tightness in there, it doesn't mean that anything has changed in terms of length or your ability to move your leg at all, except that your brain is telling you.
Exactly, and a lot of the feeling of tightness that we see people can get is that what we call neural tightness or neural tension, that resting neural tone that our body uses to try to protect us from hurting ourselves, which we've talked a little bit about last month.
Yeah, and it's a feedback loop, right? Yeah. So as your leg raises up, you're lying on your back, and as your leg raises up, we've got these little sensors in the muscle spindle cells, and they slowly get stretched out, okay? They slowly sense that tension, and they're consistently sending messages to the brain.
Yeah.
Hey, there's this much tension, there's this much tension, there's this much tension. At some point, they'll start to go, danger, okay? Or danger approaching.
Yes.
And then we have that safety feedback loop that comes out and just A, gives us a feeling of tightness, but B, actually slows down or stops the ability for that muscle to keep stretching.
Yeah.
Okay? And that can be changed.
Absolutely.
Quite easily.
Yeah. And not just from a stretching perspective either. One of the big ways that you can change that feedback loop and that resting neural tone is through strengthening and exercising a muscle.
Yeah, well, as soon as you contract the muscle, you're putting tension into that muscle.
Yeah.
All right. And I'm always reminded by this little trick you used to do when you're kids, and you'd stand in a doorway and you'd press your hands out against the door and you'd hold it for like 20 or 30 seconds. And then when you step out of the doorway, your arms just automatically rise. And it's this weird, trippy thing as a kid. You're like, this is magic. But what's actually happening is when you're pressing hard against those doors, you're increasing the tension in the muscles that push out. And your brain gets used to that set amount of tension. And that's its normal, that becomes its normal. And when you step out and relax, the tension drops off on that muscle, and your brain tries to normalize that by contracting the muscle. And that's why your arms raise up, because all it's doing is chasing the same amount of tension that you had before.
Yeah.
Same thing can happen in reverse, though, is that, you know, we go back to the hamstring idea. As you lift your leg up, that hamstring becomes tight. If we hold you in that position and then ask you to very gently contract your muscle against your hamstring, that is, your hamstring muscle, against that, hold it for a little bit. We've not just put it on stretch with tension, like we've not increased the tension just by stretching it, but then we've increased it a little bit more by contracting the muscle as well. And then when you relax the muscle, that tension drops back and you can move your leg a little bit further. Yeah. And all we've done is changed your brain's tolerance to tension.
Yes.
And believe it or not, again, they've done studies on just people who are more versus less flexible. And when they look at the amount of tension in their muscles, there's no... the length and everything, there's no difference. Or the only difference is their tolerance to tension. Yes. Those people who are more flexible in normal everyday life just have a higher tolerance to stretch in their muscle.
Yeah.
That's it.
Absolutely. And so I guess one of the points of this video that we wanted to talk to you about, and I guess to leave you sort of with, is if you've been stretching and you just can't get rid of that feeling of tightness, maybe try some strengthening or try some exercise through the muscle, and that might help with that as well.
End of the day, it's a protection mechanism, that feeling of tightness. And figuring out how to address that, that's a little bit of a journey you've got to go on. But it doesn't always mean that stretching is required.
No.
And it's certainly, when we stretch and we get that extra movement, it's not because we've lengthened the muscle out.
No.
It's not because it's short. It's not because we've stretched stuff. It'd be nice to, but muscles are way too strong for us to do that.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why they're built like that.
Yeah.
But next time you have it, next time you feel that tightness, maybe even give that little bit of a stretch with that gentle contraction and go and see if it changes things.
Yeah.